You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Benazzi from OptionPit.com, and Henry the Flowmaster Schwartz from Cboe. The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is Thursday, time for your bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yes, it is time once again for the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo, coming at you not from the Chi-Town studios, but from the Southern studio yet again. Going to be here for a couple of days. You know, the birthday celebration continues, listeners, expanding across coasts and all sorts of other fun things involved. But you know what? No rest for the wicked and no derailing of our shows here. So if you want to check out everything, of course, make sure you're checking out the full feed, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. That'll get you everything, including your double dose of OB every week. And speaking of double dose, we got a double dose of co-hosts joining me for some double trouble here on the Thursday show. Let's see who we got first. Off to the hinterlands of Chicago, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here on a Thursday, last one of August.
Hey, you're right. August flying by. It seems like I just gave out the pro trading crate for July, Uncle Mike, and already we're on August. These folks are cleaning me out. At least you can't win. I feel good about that. The Rock Lobster, he's still mad that he can't win a pro trading crate. So
you should take some points off of him for being mad.
I probably should. Every once in a while, he's like, I don't win one of those crates. I was like, I know because you are not eligible, but it's an ongoing conversation we've been having for years. And another person who's not eligible is our good buddy, the Flowmaster, but he's okay. He has those delicious spicy pickles from Cboe East. Mr. Flowmaster, welcome back to the show to you as well.
Well, good to be here, Mark. Thank you. And I don't need the pro trading crate because I have so many exchange logoed items at home that my wife will not let me bring anything in unless I discard an older one. So I was wearing a SPXW T-shirt when it was listed back on C2, which was just for like the first year. I think that goes back to about 2009. So, but I'm happy to be here, and it's a beautiful, almost like a fall day in New York City today.
Fall day indeed. Speaking of which, I'm looking here. I want to make sure. There we go. Looks like they're reloading here. That's some folks saying they were having some issues with the live. Looks like you folks should be able to hear everything now. If I sound a little bit different for all you folks in the pro chat, it's because I am beaming in from the Southern studio. But you know what? No rest for the wicked. We're going to have some fun as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And you know what? Everyone was waiting for Nvidia earnings last night, and it seems like it kind of came and went with the whimper. The initial was like, oh man, these are actually, better. They kind of, people were worried about the potential for selling chips in China. There were a lot of issues lingering. It seemed like they might have shrugged them off. And then today, coming in now, it seems like the market may be a little more lukewarm on all of the prospects for Nvidia. Nvidia actually surprisingly in the red. It is possible. Listen, there's not much off, about 1.5% right now, but that is weighing on the broad market. When the big dog out there is down even slightly, it's going to weigh on everything. That's pretty much what we're seeing right now. The Dow is pretty much literally unched on the day. The S&P not much better, up almost 0.15%. The Nasdaq faring decently out of the gate, up about 1/3%. We'll see how long that persists. And our old pal Bix Cash hanging out right around a 14.25 when we kicked off the show. And of course, our old pal VVIX. In fact, when we re-racked these numbers to start the show, I had to make sure everything was working here in the Southern studio because we were literally unched from the Monday show. Bix Cash 14.25 and VVIX 92, both unched from the Monday show. So if you just went show to show, you'd think a whole heck of a lot of nothing happened, that there was no announcement from the biggest name on the planet in the after hour. So a lot of fun stuff. Let's go around the horn the opposite of the way we started. Let's go out to the Flowmaster first. Mr. Flowmaster, sir, what did you think of the big dog in the after hours and the impact we're seeing right now in the market, sir?
Yeah, I mean, with Nvidia, it seemed like a case of much ado about kind of nothing. So I think that straddle went out of over $11. I was just looking to see if today's move, which is down about a buckish, is one of the smallest we've had for that. It is so widely covered. I guess down 275 right now, but only 1.5%. And we were pricing in a lot more than that. There have been moves actually that are less than 1%, at least on a daily basis following earnings. So last night it was pricing in 6%. And we didn't get it. So, kind of good opportunity for somebody selling. And, as we've talked about in the last few shows, it's been a funky earnings season, right? At most, we've seen in general, options have been underpricing the move, but at least so far in Nvidia, it seems like they overpriced the move. And, I'm just kind of, I'm a little bit struck. I only realized this morning that S&P is up more than 10% year to date. It's been kind of really a trudge higher. Volatility is low. There's really not that much going on. I mean, it is the end of summer, and I know for a fact that lots of people are out this week. So maybe next week we'll get some excitement, but it's actually been relatively kind of a boring market, but boring to the upside, which I guess is a good thing.
You're describing Uncle Mike's perfect market, boring to the upside. That's exactly what he wants. No excitement for him. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What's been catching your eye in the markets since the end of our last show. And of course, what's lighting up your tape out there today, sir?
Never before in the history of the entire stock market has there ever been a better time to sell than today. We are at all-time highs again today in the S&P, so it's a very exciting day, of course. Even though it's boring, I believe it's exciting. So I like days when I have out-of-the-money covered calls on the books and the market goes up to just underneath where the strike price is. So not only do I collect the premium, but then I also get the gains on the stocks. Doesn't always work that way. It seldom does, but on days like today, it does, and kind of makes you feel smart at times when it happens this way. But nonetheless, it's always exciting too when you get called away and you make your maximum profit on covered calls. But you're right, Mark. Today is we are describing the ideal market for me, boring and all-time highs. So with that, what I'm noticing today, in addition to just the news with the Nvidia earnings. Looking at our sectors, so that the market as a whole, S&P today, it's up 0.14%. But sector-wise, it's like we have some upside in technology. XLK is up 0.5% on the day. We got a little bit of upside in energy. XLE is up 0.26 on the day. But everybody else, it's like they're taking the day off. So no one's doing anything today. With everything that we have going on. So in looking at it, a lot of times people might still be on vacation right now. And with the big holiday weekend coming up, we won't be here on Monday. And so on that, the kind of the end of summer, and not the actual summer, obviously that's in like September 20th or something like that. But a lot of times people view summer as an ending after Labor Day. And so we have that coming up. So we might be getting some excitement in the near future. And I always like heading into exciting times when we are at all-time highs. So that's a good thing. I believe there's some minor inflation number coming out tomorrow, nothing major, but we might get some type of an indication from that as to if the Fed's going to follow through on their rate cuts, which they kind of said they're going to do at Jackson Hole. And we'll see where we're at from there. So, but it's all-time highs in the S&P 500. That's always an exciting way to begin a Thursday show.
So you're saying we'll get some vague and meandering statement from the Fed and the market will rip 100 handles? Because why not?
That's kind of been, normal. 2 weeks ago, I would have thought that was a funny joke, but that's actually something real that can happen.
It's not a joke anymore. It's just truth. It's just the world we all live in, Uncle Mike. Good stuff. Let's see if there's good stuff out there in the rest of the market today, shall we, listeners? Is it a spicy day out there? The answer is it kind of depends where you hang your hat out there in this market, as it kind of always does these days, listeners. Let's go out before we get to the single names and I reveal if it's a banger or not. And of course, Nvidia post earnings. You would hope it's putting up some numbers. We'll get there in a little bit as well, listeners. But let's kick things off in the land of vol, as we like to do out here, listeners. Is it a banger day in VIX land? Are the Nvidia earnings given a little bit of interest out there, a little bit of flux? And the answer is yeah, it's respectable. 480,000 contracts, so closing in on 500,000 contracts may not sound like a lot, and you would be right if you said that, but also it's the dog days of summer. The ADV is 843, so we are already past halfway to that point. So from that perspective, again, it looks fairly decent, all things considered out there. And what is the hot option out there in VIX today? It looks like it's about 43,000 of the SEP 25s. We've seen some action on the 25 strike a few times this week. Go check out the hot options report if you are intrigued. By the way, if you're wondering, SEP 25s right now, average price of about 38 cents. So it's up to you. You think that's a bargain? I mean, September, your expiration's on the 17th, so you're not even getting a full month out there. Is that worth your 38 cents? 25. That seems like a heck of a lot of vol living when we're hanging out at sub or right around a 14 right now, actually, maybe sub 14. All right, out to SPY we go, listeners. 4.25 million contracts right now. So again, decent paper, all things considered. Not earth-shaking, but not nothing either. The ADV 8 million, so over halfway towards that. And then we have our old pal, the S, 2.25 million. That's actually pretty decent paper for this time of day. We used to expect the SPX, I should say, right around this time, 1.75, maybe 2 if it was a hot day. So 2.25, that's actually pretty decent. The ADV a little bit shy of 4 million out there. Small caps closing in on 700K, which is still not halfway to their ADV, which is 1.5 million. Small caps, that ADV really skyrocketed over the last couple of weeks, and we'll see if they can continue to hit that 1.5 million ADV. Doesn't seem like it today, but we shall see. And then the Qs putting up some numbers out there today, just a tick under 3 million contracts already. For some frame of reference, we usually expect the Qs around this time of day, 2.25, maybe if things are wild, 2.5. So nearly 3 million is actually a pretty active day. The ADV 4.25 seems like definitely on pace to hit that today. All right, out to the single names we go, listeners. Is it a banger? Is it a hot day out there? The answer is yes. It's actually more than respectable. You know, respectable is 250. And pretty decently active is 350. Banger is 450. We are well north of that 350 level today. It's about 375,000 contracts is what it cost you to break into the top 10 today. It also gets us to our other pal who was popping off after the bell last night. Much forgotten in all the Nvidia anticipation is, of course, Snowflake. Ticker symbol SNOW, putting up nearly 400,000 contracts already today. 242.25, up nearly $42. Or almost 21%. So if you're wondering, is Snowflake hot again or is it kind of cold again? This is very much a binary name. And the answer is it is hot again right now. Obviously a banger number out of Snowflake. So if you were looking for something else besides Nvidia to focus on last night, Snowflake is your huckleberry. Number 10, 375,000 contracts. That's a banger. Out to number 9 we go. It's the Amazonians, listeners. 382,000 contracts on the tape. Amazon hanging out pretty close to 232, up about 280 today, or about 1.25%. Again, good for the number 9 spot, 382,000 contracts on the tape. Number 8, I do like when some newcomers, or maybe not newcomers, but older names kind of pop their way into the top 10 every now and then, like number 8, good old New Holdings, ticker symbol NU. Haven't talked about them in a while. Trading almost $15, up about 30 cents or a little over 2% today. A good day for good old NU out there. And popping into the top 10 today at number 8. Little shakeup. By the way, if you've been listening to the Hot Options Report, you know there were full days where the entire market didn't get to about 400,000 to break into the top 10. So today already on pace to beat those kind of light days. On number 7, you know it's a wild day when our old pal Rigetti makes it into the top 10. And there they are at number 7, nearly 450,000 contracts on the tape for Rigetti. Hanging out at about a $17, pretty much exactly right now, up about $1.65 or about 11%. So a good day for Rigetti. You know them, they're that wild quantum computing name. When the quantum names start making into the top 10, you know things are spicy out there. The game is afoot. Number 6, we go to the Fruit Company. A little over 500,000, 513,000 contracts on the tape for Apple, hanging out 232.75 right now, up about 2.25 or nearly 1%. So they continue to pull away from that par strike that they were locked at until Mr. Cook went to Washington and Apple went to 230 pretty much. If you like tech names, let's keep it going with number 5, AMD. AMD and Apple have been neck and neck in our top 10s of late, and here they are again today, right next to each other. AMD number 5, 516 on the tape, so only 3,000 contracts separating them today as well. AMD 167.25, up about a quarter, so not a heck of a lot of movement in AMD right now on the heels of Nvidia, which is kind of interesting. 516 on the tape for them, coming in at number 5. All right, to number 4 we go. These days, you know this one's in the top 10. It's just a question of when or where, really, and what is it doing. And today, Open comes in at number 4, 538,000 contracts already. So a banger day in Open. Even though by Open standards, it hasn't moved that much. It's up 19 cents right now, about 4.5%. We've seen Open move much more than that. Intraday, it's had a little bit more of a range. It's got up to about $4.5 exactly, and the low was 408. So 42-cent range is obviously decent. but we've seen open do a lot more than that. But it's enough for a lot of paper today. And if we know when we check later on the hot options report today, guarantee you it's probably going to be the fives expiring tomorrow, maybe the four house, probably the fives that are the hot option out there in open. But we'll find out a little bit later today on the hot option report. Stay tuned for that after the closing bell. Number 3, we go to another name that's a frequent offender these days. It's just a question of where the heck it's going to fall. Today it falls at number 3. It's Palantir, 155 and 3/4, off $1 exactly. So giving back a little to the market gods today. It did sell off again. This is kind of a bit of a common refrain now with Palantir, where they get taken to the woodshed, or at the very least, they sell off fairly aggressively early in the session. Then there's this aggressive rebound in the second half of the session. Not quite as wild today as we've seen in the past. In the past, we've seen them sell off from almost 160 through the 150 strike and then bounce back. Seen them do that a couple of times. Today, it's that kind of in microcosm. They sold off to about 152.5 before rallying back up to, they were almost 158 at one point. So a little bit smaller whipsaw today, but still whipsaw action. So lately, if you've had the intestinal fortitude to step into these sell-offs in Palantir and buy some near-dated upside, you've actually done fairly well. So interesting. It's not for the faint of heart, not for your grandmother's IRA. But that said, if you want a little bit of action and you're not afraid to roll the bones, maybe Palantir is your huckleberry today. Number 3, 540 on the tape. All right, number 2. I think you can guess what number 2 is today. Nothing's kicking Nvidia from its throne on Nvidia earnings day and the day after. No way. But it's Tesla, 340, 380, off about 580 or 1 2/3%. So Tesla giving some back to the market gods today. 1.5, almost 1.55 million contracts on the tape. And you know it, you love it, maybe you hate it. It's the big dog. It's Nvidia. 179.25 right now, off about 2 1/3, about 1 1/4%. It's had a range today, looks like before the open, about 176.40, and the high was 184.47. So an $8.06 range, according to my data here. That doesn't include the after hours, obviously. And a decently active day so far, 3.8 million. We've seen Nvidia do a lot more than that, to almost 3x that in the past. So not quite at that level of volume, but still a decently active day, all things considered, for the big dog, which is Nvidia. And that's really kind of the big dog of the remaining earnings season. That said, there are still names popping off if you are excited. Uncle Mike was paying a lot of attention to the earnings before the bell today because his preferred clothiers of Dollar General and Burlington were both popping off before the bell, as well as Ollie's, where he buys his premium goods. So it was a big day for Uncle Mike today. We'll have to check in on his bargain sector, see how that fared, as well as, of course, if you're excited about Dell, they are popping off after the bell today. So still a lot of earnings to come. We won't crunch the numbers for you because there's a lot going on out there, listeners. Let's just look really quick. Actually, I take it back. There was one before the bell that I do want to talk about. This is Best Buy. You know, they've been sounding the death knell on this thing for I can't even count how long on Best Buy now. They're dying, they're dying, they're dying. They've managed to cling to life for at least a decade beyond what the naysayers were saying out there. Let's see how Best Buy fared. They were at 75.5 going into their announcement. They were pricing in nearly 8%. And as of this report this morning, they had sold off to right around 72. So they had delivered almost 5%, about 4.7% to the downside. So underperforming their straddle. As I'm looking right now, they've actually gained a little bit of that back, so only down about 4.25%. So if you sold premium out there, you were sweating a little bit earlier today. They got down to looks like 70.45. So you were sweating a bit. They were pretty much at about the outside range of their straddle. Seems like they're coming back to earth a little bit. So it doesn't seem like the number was too great out of Best Buy, but obviously not that dire either. Let's do a couple more because Uncle Mike is really keen on these sectors. Burlington, they were at 280 going into their announcement. Apparently, Uncle Mike bought a lot of coats and accessories because the stock was at 300 when we ran this report this morning. They were pricing in 7.9%. They had delivered about 7.1%. I already told you about Snowflake. They blew the doors off their straddle. They were expecting about 11%, and they had already delivered 19% as of this report, and I'm sure it's even more right now. Five below 144 and at about a half is where they were trading going into their number. They're pricing in 9.4%. They delivered 3.5%. So wow, a good time to be selling some premium and living the dreamium out there. If you want to do that after the bell today, you got Dell. They were at 132.5 when we ran this report. They were pricing in $10.30. In the past, they moved about 12.5 bucks. So seems like a bit of a maybe earnings sale out there. A lot of names have been doing that lately, which is kind of surprising given the fact that our season is still it's just an explosive banger. We'll get to that in a second. And then Marvell today after the bell, about 75 bucks is where they were trading when we ran this report. They were pricing in almost $7 exactly. In the past, they moved 866. So another one where if you think that vol is cheap, maybe you wanna take a nibble there. And then of course Baba, they're tomorrow before the bell. 122.25 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 5.5 bucks. In the past, they moved $6, so a little bit of a discount in Baba out there as well. So if you've been listening to all these names we've been talking about, saying, "Man, everything's knocking the cover off the ball," vol must be just extremely expensive, at least for right now. A lot of these names are trading at discounts to their most recent trailing 12-quarter average. Listeners, let's do one more. Let's do Salesforce coming up next week on the 3rd. They're kind of one of the last big ones we're keeping an eye on out here. They were at 250 almost exactly when we ran this report. They're pricing in 17.75. Now they got the memo because in the past they've moved about 17 bucks. So they're pricing in a little bit of extra juice on top. So unfortunately, no deals out there in Salesforce, which is to be expected. The season continues to grow. It's at 127% right now, listeners. Our long-term average is already ridiculous at 119%, and we're blowing the doors off that. So another one of those seasons where until that turns around, you're probably better off leaning towards the long side on the earnings vol side. But you're always better off listening to the Flowmaster when it's time for the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, or I should say really the Flowmaster gets weird. I stay completely normal, but the Flowmaster gets weird and gets wild. What do we got on the docket for? Let's see. Oh, we've got Ondas Holdings. I do believe this is a newcomer. I don't think we've ever discussed Ondas Holdings, ticker symbol ONDS. Looks like they are an optical name. Maybe are they a chain of optometrists? Oh no, they build looks like drones and Iron Drone Raider system they make. So they're on the drone side. Maybe they make the optics for drones. Either way, a good day to be in the Ondas Holdings business. $5.82, up 75 cents or nearly 15%. So bit of a banger out here in good old Ondas. Let's look back over the past year. You know what? It's been a hell of a year for Ondas as well. They're up $5. Holy crap. 618%. So they were trading around 80 cents a year ago, listeners. Oh my goodness. And now $5.82. Apparently, it's a good year to be in the Iron Drone Raider business. That makes sense. Drones are very hot right now for a variety of reasons. But man, this chart has been almost nothing but straight up, listeners. It shot up into January of this year, was trading nearly $3. Then it kind of did drift down. So you had a second bite of the apple. In March, listeners, this stock was trading 69 cents. And then that was kind of all she wrote. It started drifting up. You actually had until May. It was still about $1 at May. And then since then, it's been just pretty much mostly straight up. But absolutely wild stuff. 69 cents. You could have had the forever call for 69 cents, all you wanted about 3 or 4 months ago, listeners. And now nearly $6. Mr. Flowmaster, why are you teasing us all with this stock that we all clearly missed?
Well, yeah, it is an interesting one. I don't think I'd ever pulled it up before, but I was alerted to a pretty funky call buyer. And you're right, this stock is whatever, it's up almost 10 times in a couple months. But the trade that I saw was at 11:15 this morning. There's actually a decent call buyer even earlier that at 10:19 when the stock was 543. We saw a buyer of 7,500 of the step 12 4 calls. So that's 2 weeks from tomorrow, right? That sweep had 62 pieces to it, touched all 18 exchanges within 3 milliseconds. And I love to see these sweeps when they're like just so kind of sophisticated in the routing. I actually did jump into the stock and made a little bit, just kind of riding it up about a dime. I do not know anything about it, but what we're looking at right now is total call volume of 114,000 contracts versus just 27,000 puts. It does look like it's relatively hard to borrow. The forwards are trading a little bit under. It's not super hard to borrow, but it shows up as with an implied borrow of around 5 or 6%. Just a weird one. I don't. We've seen. The meme stocks have had a pretty active month. So you mentioned Open. That was kind of one of the ones. In a way, it's pretty similar to this, although a lot more activity. But that one also went from under $1 to $5 very, very quickly. So I'm not sure what's up with this, but there are a few very notable directional sweeps. A later buyer of 1,700 of the regular SEP, so that's September 19th, 6.5 calls. That buyer paid 45 cents. So there's some pretty juicy premium. I think the implied vol in here is well over 100% right now. It's 115 or so all the way through, really all the way out to January of 2027. So high vol name, definitely directionally bullish flow. Maybe good for kind of some nimble entry and exit.
A nimble indeed. Yeah, this one is just this is wild. And obviously, we profiled a lot of names on the network. I can't recall the last name I saw that it's been almost straight up the entire year. Obviously, a little bit of a blip in that May March timeframe, but outside of that, it's been just a absolutely banger year. Are you in on the Iron Dome, listeners? Like our chat saying they're going to get a Golden Dome order coming soon. So apparently they're the drone domes, Mr. Flowmaster out there. So if you want to get your domes, then apparently Ondas is your name. That's a hot one. That's definitely going on my watch list. And interesting options as well. We don't see a lot of in the money options going up like this. Usually it's all the YOLO paying 50 cents for the 12 calls with a day to go, something nonsensical like that. These actually have a little bit of meat on the bone, which is kind of fascinating. Speaking of fascinating, let's get out to our next name, listeners. This is another newcomer. This is Braze Inc. BRAZE. Now, normally I'd see this ticker and I'd say, oh, it's the Breeze, BRZE, but no, it's Braze Inc. Again, ticker symbol BRZE. Having a decent day as well. Not quite as hot as ONS, but a hot day nonetheless. Trading $27.82, up $1.20 or about 4.5%. So a good day for them. Let's see, on the year, kind of the polar opposite of the ONS chart. This one is mostly red for the entirety of the year. A year ago, it was $16.72 higher. So it sold off about almost 38% on the year. So not a great start to the year for them, listeners. Again, hanging out right around $44.50 a year ago. They did manage to rally again. They sold off in October to about $30. Then they managed to rally it again, got up to about 47.25. So they kissed that level again back in January. And then they pretty much have been selling off for pretty much the entirety of this year. In fact, year to date, yeah, they're off about 36%. So most of the sell-off has just come since January, listeners. So kind of interesting out here. So let's see, Mr. Flowmaster. By the way, Breeze. Let's see really quickly. Oh, it should be Braze. I'm doing it to myself. A Braze here. I'll have to look and see what they do. But Mr. Flowmaster, you're 2 for 2 on the newcomers here. What's catching your eye in Braze Inc., sir?
Yeah, it was another one. I in my notes I said it's just kind of wacky ticker day. This is pretty well. There was a trade that stands out to me, which is a buyer of 1,000 of the SEP 30 calls, paying $1.40, and the reason that is significant is because the average daily call volume is only 500 contracts in this thing. So it's a thinly traded one. There has not been a ton of other activity, but when I looked at the chart, I see volatility just kind of implied vol just marching higher, like really on a very steady climb from basically 45 to 80, really in the last 2 months. And so that kind of tells me that there's certainly more interest in owning optionality than being shorted. Maybe the market knows there's some sort of kind of catalyst coming, but this is an interesting one. The stock has not exploded. As you said, it's actually really beaten up, but it was at $24 a couple weeks ago. Now we're basically closer to 28. So I have not done anything in this name. But it does stand out, so, just a simple buyer of calls, nice and straightforward, bullish, twice as big as the average daily volume, worth keeping an eye on, maybe a small position.
Our chat is definitely intrigued by your Ondus, Mr. Flowmaster. They're down for a little bit of Iron Dome drones. We'll see if they're into the Breeze/Braze as well, but ONDS definitely getting my attention. That chart is kind of hard to ignore. As we keep on rolling, listeners, let's see if we could squeeze one more onto the show. Let's go out to not Smurfette. It looks like it though. That'd be fun, but no, Smurfette, Westrock PLC. I think we are 3 for 3 on the newcomers to the show today. Ticker symbol SW. You'd think Southwest would have wanted that ticker, but no, they went with love. Trading today, SW about $46, up about a quarter, or right around 0.5%. On the year, let's see. On the year is another one. They've been kind of mostly treading water. They have turned a little bit to the dark side right now. They're off a little over $1, about $1.13, or a little over 2% for the year for them. So not exactly a wild year. They were higher back in the November timeframe. They got up to, looks like, around nearly $57 sometime in that November to about, looks like, February timeframe. Then they kind of fell off a cliff in March down to about this 43 to 45 range that they appear to be hanging out in. They did a little bit of a dip below it back in, looks like April 8th, like a lot of names did. They got down to about $38, but then they pretty much rallied right back, and they've been kind of vacillating in this mid 40s range pretty much ever since, hanging out, like we said, right around $46 today, up about a quarter and off about $1 and change on the year. So not a heck of a lot of crazy wild action on the year for this one, which makes this trade even more intriguing, I suppose, if you look at it. We noticed today someone coming in this morning and saying Smurfette, I want to say Smurfette myself, Smurfette SEP 50s, 5 O's. How are they? They got 15 cents at 35, so a decently wide market, but then again, it is Smurfette after all. And they said, you know what, good sir, I will take that offer of 35 cents and I will buy 3,000. And in order to do so, I will go through your offer by about a penny. I will sweep all the exchanges, get all of the 50s I can for that roughly 36-cent price. That's a 35 vol. If you're wondering, the stock was a little bit lower, actually. So they did catch a little run in the stock. The stock was 45 2/3 when they put this trade up. So I guess they got that working for them, which is nice. That said, they need a heck of a lot more. They need to get to 50 by SEP expiration. And they don't have any other obvious catalysts working for them. Earnings aren't until October 29th. So they are well outside the lifespan of this option. So, Mr. Flowmaster, I don't know, 36 cents for 3,000 of the SEP 50s. Good old Smurfette here needs to really get out of bed by the end of the month, sir. What do you think?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting trade, and it's a big sweep. But what's weird is in my data it shows maybe firm to firm, which I'm just double checking in my raw data source to see if maybe that's a pro-cust buyer, because it obviously looks like a pretty aggressive buyer when they paid through the offer. My guess is that's pro-cust. Stock was 45.67 at the time, so it's an interesting one. I mean, we're kind of back into the market mode where market keeps going up, as Mike mentioned, and some of these meme and story stocks and just when you get a really strong bull market like we have, you can be all stressed out, but market's up 10% year to date, and we really are having that's certainly outperforming the long-term average. It's almost double the long-term average on an annual basis. So it's another interesting one. There's a lot of bullish flow. I mean, right now the mood is a little bit, I'd say, frothy. Certainly, basically nothing bad has happened, and when the market's near all-time highs, people have a lot of money in their pocket. They have a lot of buying power in their brokerage accounts, and you see some kind of funky stuff like this, and a lot of it plays out. So I would be cautious, just because I'm personally still nervous, and valuations are they seem to be kind of at the high end, but at the same time, market keeps trudging higher, so you can't afford not to be in it. And this one does look like a pretty aggressive call buyer as well. They're already up a little bit, but these things are quoted right now 35.50, so a little bit of a wide quote, but we show CO at about 41 cents, so that's not so bad for the first couple hours of the trade. Interesting one. I'm glad you found it.
Not a bad do, as the kids say. Really quickly, we throw these terms out all the time. We probably should define them. So when you say pro-cust, what are we talking about, Mr. Flowmaster?
Sure. So there's a few primary definitions. Customer, firm, and market maker are the main market participants, and that's kind of who you think of. But customer can include little retail customers trading through Robinhood, and also big hedge funds. But pro-cust is actually a customer that trades on average more than 390 orders a day. So there's a rule: they have to declare themselves pro-cust. They lose some priority in the order queue and that kind of stuff. And in our data, that we actually kind of consider them firm, because customers trading more than 390 orders a day, most people would say is customer. I'm just looking at this trade right now. It is a pro-cust buyer. So that's, you kind of have to take that with a little grain of salt. But in this case, that's exactly what we got.
390 orders a day. As Uncle Mike would call that, small size. Nothing to him. As we keep on rolling, listeners, right on into the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where we get your opinions on some of the interesting, some of the wild and weird questions of our day, listeners. Let me start here really quickly, paying off some of the questions we asked you folks last week, and even earlier this week. We asked you, right now, are you comfortable buying and holding the SPX? I think on a day like today, the answer is probably yes, when you have a new all-time high and Uncle Mike is blowing his horn and popping his bottle and everything else like that. When we asked you last week, most of you, or at least more than half of you, said no. 57.4% said you were not comfortable buying the S&P right now. 42.6% said yes. Now, obviously, depends on what we mean by buy and hold. If he's buy and hold forever, sure. But right now, just buying and holding it for a little while, would you be comfortable doing that? And the answer, it looks like, is a resounding no. Out there to the puts as well. This one kind of caught our eye. This 15 strike has been bandied about quite a bit. August, September, pick your month. You probably talk about some 15 puts at one time or another. This past week, it was the D's 15 puts going up for size 50,000 times for 24 cents. And we said, that you're getting a lot of duration for that, and you're not paying a ton for it. Maybe you could argue it's a little rich for the 15 strike, which we've had a problem maintaining out there. But still, you're getting all the way to December. If there's a time of year where you wouldn't mind having a little seasonality in your back pocket, December is it. So it seemed like an intriguing one. So we put it out to you folks. You want to buy these for 24 cents, or you just want to straight sell them? We're not doing any verticals or anything when you're getting down to the 15 strike for 24 cents. And as I thought, almost 2/3 of you, 65%, wanted to buy those bad boys. Only a third of you said sold to you. Out here to our questions of the week for this week. We asked you, this came on the heels of our Monday show, so let's pay this one off now. We were talking about that rig upside, listeners. It was the rig October 3.5s. They went up 39,000 times. Yeah, we profiled this on the Monday show for 15 cents. We said that one was just absolutely wild. That price, are you a buyer or a seller, or you want to sell them as part of, a covered call or a vertical? And 2/3 of you, straight up, 66.7%, said, give me those calls. It did seem, I do believe the Rock Lobster was on the Monday show speculating that he thought someone might have known something, or at the very least thought they knew something about good old Rig. Let's see, where is Rig right now? Rig is $3.12. So the 3/2s not looking great, but they did get up to 320 this morning. So they had a little bit of a run. Let's see, we got up to 320 yesterday a couple of times as well. So from the Monday show, they're looking all right. So from that perspective, maybe they did know something, but it was like you had to bail if that was the case. But that said, 2/3 of you wanted to buy them. About almost 21% said you wanted to sell them, but as part of a covered call or as a vertical, no straight naked. And the hardcores of you, 12.5%, said you want to sell them out naked. All right, let's get to the actual questions of the week right now. Uncle Mike is champing at the bit. And we have two going right now. One is the summer doldrums are coming to an end. Are we heading towards more activity in the fall, or just another period of low vol? Quite simply, which level will VIX hit first, the 12 or the 20 handle? Make your voice heard. Then we also have this one's right up Uncle Mike's alley, our crypto question of the week, this was a debate we had with our guest on Monday on the Crypto Rundown, which is quite simply, are physically settled crypto contracts, are they dead? Do you see a need for them, or do you only want cash settled contracts going forward? So, Uncle Mike, I won't make you weigh in on the crypto debate unless you really feel compelled. But what are your thoughts here on good old VIX summer doldrums? Are we going to kiss a 12 handle first or a 20 handle?
Well, I think with I'll start off with the cash settled crypto, because you definitely want cash settled, because if you have crypto settled crypto, then when crypto goes belly up, you'll have nothing to settle it. So I mean,
I had
I
a
think
feeling you would say something like that, sir.
I couldn't resist, Mark. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not really sorry. Anyway, in terms of the VIX 12 versus 20, it's hard to argue with the runaway bull market with which we have. I actually think we're going to see them both, quite honestly, over the course of the next couple months. But I think we're going to touch 12 first, and we will not be there for long.
Wow, Uncle Mike going for the 12 handle. Wild. I like it. I like it. I mean, my portfolio will like it. Theoretically, I wouldn't like it because I know once you kiss 12, 10 is not that far away, and then we all know what happens once VIX gets below 10. Vol and the markets go to die. You want to see something that could derail this endless options bull market we got going here? A single digit VIX could do that, but I digress. Mr. Flowmaster, if you have thoughts, you mess around in the product space these days. Do you think is physically settled just dead, especially when it comes to crypto? I mean, you folks at Cboe had a crypto product for a while. And then B, and you might have a few again. And then B, what are your thoughts on VIX? Are we kissing 12 or 21st, sir?
My, those are good questions. On the crypto side, I mean, there's a lot of buzz on perpetual futures, these kind of continuous futures that effectively they do take the place of buying crypto and putting it in a wallet, or even leaving it at a crypto broker. That continues to pick up steam. And the truth is, to me, it's the whole the risk of crypto where you lose your key and then your assets are gone forever, that goes away if you're getting your exposure through futures. People just seem to prefer it. So And cash settled, there's some messiness in the fact that the crypto never closes. So like, what's your settlement price? But there's smart people that are putting a lot of work into kind of trying to come up with the fairest way to do that. So I think that I'm really not a true believer in the space. I see the efficiencies, but I also don't see the purpose yet. But some interesting possibilities. And then on VIX, 12 or 20, which will come first? Oh, man, it's tough to think that we would see 12 when there's so much scary things going on in the world. However, you do have to remember that, in the first Trump presidency, that's when we had single-digit VIX for a while at least. So I actually think we probably will see 12 before we see 20. Although you never know. It's kind of like everybody knows there's a decent chance of some ridiculous headline spooking everybody. But at the same time, you see how much people are chasing this market higher, right? And that really does have a lot of that creates a strong foundation for the market. You also really have, we see some story stocks whipping all over the place, but in the dispersion world, really it's all canceling out, and so you're getting this very low realized vol when it comes to the index, and that's what VIX is, at least is related to. It's a forward measure, but realized vol matters. So I think that I do think we have a better chance of seeing 12 before we see 20. But I would not overextend myself because you just never know. As I think I mentioned on one of the podcasts before, we were talking to Bloomberg, and he had an economist who was following the subject very closely, and he said, we know that kind of headline risk and chaos is part of this administration. It's just a matter of time. Maybe we get a couple quiet weeks, and maybe we get a couple quiet months, but there's always something that's going to happen. It's impossible to know when.
That is why we put the 12 handle here, because we know what happened the first time Trump took office. And right now our audience is going back and forth with this. They are leaning towards the 20 handle, though. 58% right now are leaning towards 20 handle first. Only 42% for the 12 handle out there right now. This is going to be live through the end of the week, listeners. So if you want to play along, get out there. We'll discuss it again tomorrow on Vol Views. And the cash settled versus physically delivered side does seem like you folks just don't want to mess about with the underlying out there. 75% say you're cash settled for the win. Only 25% say physical delivery still has a reason to exist. By the way, Flowmaster was talking about the perps. We had a good chat with the folks from Coinbase last week on our Crypto Rundown show about exactly that. They are all fired up about bringing perps to the U.S. If you're not familiar, listeners, they are exactly what the name implies. Perpetual futures. Think of a future without an expiration date, and you could do that effectively in crypto because crypto never stops. 24/7, 365. So you can run a perpetual future off of that. They've been mostly offshore. That's why they're still a little new here to the U.S., but Coinbase is trying to onboard them and bring them onshore in a big way. So check out that crypto rundown from last week if you are intrigued. And really quickly here, we'll touch on this on the crypto show as well, but we had a question here along those lines from Forrest Gumpit. He wanted to know, it'd be useful to explain where each type of these cash settled and physical settled has an advantage for trading. Well, the advantage in cash settlement is just simplicity. You don't need to deal with anything, just the difference between your strikes, and that's pretty much it. You're getting debited or credited. You don't have to worry about underlying changing hands or having the capital to get the underlying or anything like that, or any extra fees from processing the underlying. None of that nonsense. It's just a straight debit or credit to your account. So for a lot of people, the simplicity is why they like cash settlement. Physical, the reason why we did this is because in the early days of crypto derivatives, LedgerX backed all the new exchanges that were coming online were all listing physically settled contracts because they thought the future in crypto was people writing covered calls against their spot or against their futures and then selling puts to get long the underlying. So it was all about the underlying. And as we saw what happened with Backed and to a degree with LedgerX, they got caught up in some other issues and shenanigans as well. But as that wasn't really the predominant use case. So it seems like right now all the products we're talking about are on the cash settled side, hence the results of our poll. But we'll get into that more in 2 weeks, really, on the crypto rundown as we keep on rolling into Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on till our next episode. In the case of all of us, not just the Flowmaster, it's going to be next Thursday. There is no Monday show, so no chance for Uncle Mike to steal a point back from the Rock Lobster. He had a chance on Monday. He got half a point, but no joy there. Looks like right now as we're coming into the end of the show, Dow still unched, S&P up 0.25%, so getting a bit of a lift, flirting with that 6,500 level. NASDAQ up about 0.5%. And VIX cash still vacillating around that 14.15 range. So not that dissimilar from where we were at the start of the show. That said, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, as we're all looking forward a week, what are you keeping an eye on, sir?
Well, Andrew should get half a point taken away from him, but that's another story. 6,500 on the SPX, seeing if we can break through there. It seems like we're having a hard time getting through the key number. We took us a while to kind of knock the door down of the 6481 number for the all-time high. So continuing to watch that, continuing to watch and monitor if Nvidia can actually come higher now that it actually went down a whole dollar, but seeing how it reacts after the information that they put out, and just watching this technology sector, because that's the only thing doing anything right now.
It is the only thing doing anything, and of course our good pal ONS with their drone madness. Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you. What are you keeping an eye on until we all get back together a week from now?
Yeah, I think it's it should be a nice weekend. I think everybody coming back, maybe the dynamics will change as we get into September. There's certainly, kind of plenty of noise about the situation at the Fed and other agencies. So, I guess I'll be kind of looking at the macro picture, really trying to tactically get in and get out. I just have a tough time pouring money into the market and not looking at it, given kind of where we are. So careful, but long. And the truth is, I think because everybody's so kind of braced for, dislocations, we're just not getting them.
You sound like the roughly 58% of our audience that has a hard time buying the S&P right now, Mr. Flowmaster. So you are far from alone, sir. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for the old OB this week. But don't fret if you're hanging out in the pro. I'll be back. No rest for the wicked. No waiting for you folks. I'll be back right away in your ear holes to talk some futures options on This Week in Futures Options. Then, of course, we're back after the close for a good old taste of the hot options report, and who knows, maybe some other, easy for me to say, maybe some other special info, special fun for you pro folks. If you want to join the folks in the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go. And Mr. Uncle Mike, where should they go if they want some Uncle Mike goodness or to debate the pros and cons of physical settlement and crypto derivatives, sir?
By all means, I think we need a cash-settled Shiba Inu futures contract.
It's coming. They got a future on XRP at CME, so they could do anything, sir.
Oh my gosh. Okay. stcharleswealth.com if you want to have a financial advisor or just talk to a financial advisor who is not afraid of the option product. stcharleswealth.com.
And think for your next, if you win another contest, Uncle Mike, I should just send you one Shiba Inu just so you have it. That will be your prize. One Shiba Inu, sir. You can enjoy it. You can frame it, put it on your wall, sir. A little certificate. I own one. How's that sound?
That kind of does sound kind of cool.
It's about a millionth of a penny, but hey, it'd be fun to have on your wall. It's not even worth the paper to print it out, but it will be fun nonetheless.
Yeah, it would actually.
You can put it next to your infamous three of the War Raiders, not the War Raiders, the Road Warriors.
Double animal, baby.
Double animal all the way. And Mr. Flowmaster, sir, if folks want to check out all of the cool goodies you're rocking over there in Cboe land, where should they go? What should they do?
just head over to Cboe.com/RMA. That's where we have our data and platforms. And the general website, Cboe.com, we've got some great content. You can sign up for our Back Row weekly letter written by Mandy Zhu and find my State of the Industry as well. So Cboe.com.
Cboe.com/RMA is the place to go. If you're hanging out in the pro, you don't have to go anywhere. I'll be back instantaneously with some TWIFO fun. And then we're all back after the closing bell for Thor and maybe some other fun content for you. Then back again tomorrow, Dr. Vix and maybe special guests in hand to talk some vol on vol views. Then we're all off for a long weekend until we're back again next Thursday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by Cboe. Cboe's suite of S&P 500 index options, SPX and mini S&P 500 XSP options, allows traders to speculate on the direction of the market, generate income, and hedge for downside protection of their portfolio of stocks. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/SPX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Cboe Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively Cboe. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the Cboe products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.